Welcome to the session by AntWak. Today we have a masterclass on network security. Uh, Kaushik, let's start with our intro for our speaker today.
Sure. Good afternoon to all of you. I hope you guys are doing fine during this pandemic time, and all your folks and your dear ones. I hope everybody's doing fine. So welcome. Good afternoon to all of you. We're gonna have a special masterclass on network security today. So just to give you a brief before the author, I'd like to just run you through about AntWak, which is an education platform driven by real professionals sharing real insights. More than about 3,000 global professionals across 30 plus countries have shared their knowledge with over 15 domains. And you can quickly hit to at antwak.com, which hosts more than 30,000 micro videos, which are absolutely free for you to learn from. So do not forget to sign up on that website. And recently, we've also launched a premium program for graduates and early professionals and intermediate professionals who want to successfully transition into cybersecurity as a career. So, a warm welcome to our speaker, Mr. Anup Khopkar today. It's more than a privilege and an opportunity to have you on board, and I've had the chance to interview you and share so much of amazing insights and knowledge around network security. And I hope the people who've come in here today also get benefited with this. So, Mr. Khopkar has over a decade of experience in the IT industry. He's been born and raised in Pune, Maharashtra, and he's been working with the brand called Symantec since 2013. If you see, he has a line of certifications ranging from the Linux Plus, Security Plus, and Symantec Certified Specialist. He has involved in various projects, and I cannot wait anymore for him to begin the class today. A warm welcome to you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and Kaushik. Thanks for the great introduction. I'm also looking forward to work with you guys and share my knowledge about the network security domain, as well as anything in cybersecurity. And just to add to what Kaushik has already mentioned, I love this domain. I've been working in computers for more than 15 years. From the day I left my education in middle, to be honest, and I started working for different companies. I have done a lot of cybersecurity recently for last almost 10 years. But before that, I was doing hardware, as well as I have worked as a system admin for a few years. So I understand both sides of the business, how a small company also requires cybersecurity, and how a big company also will need the same kind of security, but the level of security depends upon what kind of a data they want to manage. So as part of Symantec, I work with a lot of big customers who basically take Symantec products, which are one of the top tiers companies who make these security products. You must have heard about Norton Antivirus. That's generally the way people recognize Symantec as a brand. The Norton is no longer part of Symantec. There's a bifurcation and all that stuff. But yeah, that was a brand, and you must have seen a lot of certificates or if you go to a secure website, that also are made by security. But the main thing that Symantec actually does is behind the scenes. And as a network engineers and who does okay. Is it better now? I got a message that I'm not able to hear.
No,
No,
you're audible, sir.
you're audible.
Perfect.
Very
All
much.
right. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. So a lot of things go behind the scene. So what I am going to try to do today is going to walk you through to how security works in behind the scenes in a large corporation, as well as some things that you also can do at your home networks and to keep your family and friends safe. Right. So we'll start with the presentation that I have. Let me share my screen. All right. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So this part we have done. Yeah, this
Uh,
is a bit about me,
Anup,
myself.
just before you
Sure.
get started,
Sure.
just a quick couple of instructions for folks on the session today.
Mhm.
Feel free to put your questions in the chat box. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the session, and we will take as many questions as possible. And like Kaushik said, in the meanwhile, please stay on mute so that it's a convenient and an engaging session for everybody on the call today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so this was the introduction slide. So let's see. Okay, all right. So we'll start with to understanding of what actually network security means, and what. So to understand that, first we need to understand what is a network, right? You may have a vague idea about a network. You may know it with the different names, right? So the book definition of network is basically a group of computers that are set common set of communication protocols over digital interconnections and purpose to sharing resources or provide net services basically over network nodes, right? That's a book definition, right? This is basically coming from Wikipedia, and this is what you're going to learn in any academia, where a variation of this, maybe not the same words, but what we are actually here to do is this definition is great, and you will have many definitions, but what we are here to learn is not all the definitions in the book, right? We are here to understand how stuff works, how security professionals, do their day-to-day job, and maybe as you are interested in this particular field, you want to know how actually things work inside the network, and that will help you do the job better, to understand the network, and then you can secure it, right? And all the elements that go into a computer network, you need to know at least a bit about it, so that you can actually help secure the data on those devices, as well as the people who are working on those devices, or maybe it's a project and you want to help secure. So if you have some understanding of these things, you'll be able to do the job better, and basically that will be rewarding for you, both financially as well as a challenges that you want to take. All right, so what network is, right? So before even computers, the network term was used in very widely, right? So you must have seen this diagram, like local area network, with basically called a LAN. uh, but if you see, network is anything. Like a road network can be so two entities connecting, right? Anywhere you want to take goods, services, anything from one point to another, you need some kind of a medium to go. So a network can be considered as even the road network or a rail network, you can say. That's also a network. Now, why we need networks, right? Because we want to have a communication or connectivity between different nodes, right? Nodes is nothing but endpoint where you want to where the information may start or may end up at, right? So rail network is one of the examples of a network in the physical world, right? What we deal with is mostly this, the wide area network, which is basically a bunch of routers, bunch of computers connected together using very smart technologies, which give you very high speed of data transfer, right? And the way it works is, I'll explain it in later slides, but this is the network that actually helps us to communicate with each other, right? So even if you say like a social network, right, that's your network of friends, so that you can share information and connect with each other. And the way you do it is using a platform or basically a service. So consider network as that service that helps you or enables you to communicate with others. Now, to computers to communicate, they need to basically have a certain set of rules, and that's where the word protocols come into play. So it's yeah, so that's where our focus will be, and this is how the internet actually works, right? So yeah, one more example is this, like you can have a network of your phones, and that also comes under the way of communication. So this is how the internet works, right? So it's basically bunch of computers connected to each other. So maybe in this is just a diagram, but this is how the tree of internet works. So maybe you have a small network. Let's say you have 10 computers, or maybe you are just using a Wi-Fi and a few mobile devices, right? That is part of here somewhere in this entire internet. You will be basically a node in this internet, and the way this is connected is you are technically connected to each and every node on the internet. You only need to find the way or the route to get to that particular resource, right? So instead of just going into a book definitions and the history of the net, yeah, you can definitely if that is something that interests you, you can read about it, the ARPANET, and how the internet was developed, and how a small bunch of scientists who just wanted to share some data came up with the internet, and why it become a very big phenomena in the 90s, and depending upon how many nodes you wanted to connect, right? So all right, so what we are actually interested in, right? We are interested in some things which will help you get a job, or maybe you're working and you want to step into a security domain, or maybe network security is something that you're interested in. To be honest, from the years of experience that I have seen, network security is one of those areas where you can get a break pretty easily if you understand the basics. You know the security domain, you know your networking very well, and you will be able to crack into a network security domain rather than going into like where you need to learn a lot of skills which basically come with experience. And see, to be honest, no one is going to give you the master password or the administrator password of the main network server, or the basically the web server of the organization, right? You have to work your way up to that level of confidence. So let's learn about things that we are going to learn in this particular masterclass as well as the boot camps, right? So first thing that we need to understand is how the network works, right? How the computer exchange data, right? Then we want to understand how the internet works, which basically is internet is nothing but a bunch of networks connected together, right? So how your computer can connect to computers all over the world, not just computers, servers, and now mobile devices, and in today's age all the IoT devices, how these things connect to each other. IoT is basically internet of things, which is we have right now we can have mobile phones, as well as we have television sets, cars which are connected to the internet. So all these are nothing but network nodes, and basically as it's not a complete computer, so they just call it things, because that will be a very wide definition. So you can have anything that can connect to internet can be called as a network. Now the important question is why we need to protect this data, right? We want to understand why these what network needs to be protected in order to protect your data, your privacy maybe, or you don't want someone to look at some data and all that stuff, right? Okay, so how do we protect the network? How, as a security professionals, or network professional, or network engineers as well, or maybe the company does not have that much of a budget to put a complete security team in. So how a network administrator or a computer administrator can do a basic security course and understand how he can put in place the controls required, so that he can protect his network and help him do his job better. Believe me, if there is an attack, and you are an administrator at that site, or you are doing incident response, or in uh, any role related to that incidents, you are going to spend a lot of time. I have spent more than a couple of days staying in office to fix the security problem. And as it says, prevention is better than cure. So we need to understand how we protect it. Okay, and next will be the point about why like the security domain has become important. It's quite obvious. You can't get away with crime on the street, but you can definitely get away on cyber crimes on the internet. And it's just not about cyber crimes. It has become to a level where now everything is connected to your internet, right? So maybe you have your electricity grid that is connected. Maybe you have your share market and stock exchanges are which are also on the internet, right? So there will be people who want that kind of information. Maybe they want to sell it to some different company, they want to sell it to a different country. Now if you think in the prospection about countries, right? If we have a neighboring country where we want we don't like them, for example, for political reasons or anything, right? And you want to get as much as information possible that may save your army's resources. Maybe they are planning some kind of an attack on your infrastructure, and you want to know how you want to defend against it, right? So those are called national actors, or basically it's called cyber warfare. So as these terms have evolved, the cybersecurity has become, or network security has become, one of the top demanded skills in the industry. You can create, like, you need people who will create data, process data. You need people who will actually use that data and do productive things with it. But if that data falls into wrong hands, then the person who has done all the efforts to make that data for maybe his company's profit, and the company will share some profit with him, that if one day it gets locked with some kind of a ransomware, then imagine the frustration about that particular person and that company. So that's why the security domain has come very much into focus, the- and that's where the next question comes as well. So you must have heard, and if you follow security news, or even if you see if you just put in cybersecurity gap in India or in world, you will see that you will see numbers like in millions, right? And the experts, like, who have worked in the industry for 20 plus years, they will say that we don't find good people. We don't find good people with the skills that are required for cybersecurity, right? You may find developers who can develop you a very kick-ass code, which will basically change the world. But there will be a very because of that, the developer does not understand if or basically he may have just overlooked some factors, and he just does not put in a basic security check that could have been put in, and that entire project goes basically into a bin because of that security flaw. You must have heard about a lot of security leaks that happened, and most of the times, yeah, you can get a lot of products in place, and you can definitely try to protect your network by following a lot of compliances, but still these breaches do happen, right? So the next question comes is, like, what are the skills then, right? That will be the main question that will come into mind. Okay, there is a gap of the security domain, you understand there is a need, so there is a supply, and there is definitely a lack of demand. So what are the skills that you will actually need to master, right? So it depends upon different roles that you're going to get into, right? So let's look at some of these roles, right? So again, one of the bonus question will be that if you want to get the first job in your network security, right? What kind of jobs and what kind of uh, duties and responsibilities, or what kind of challenges you're looking at, right? So what happens is, if you search for the fresher jobs, or jobs for like 2 to 3 years of experience, or anything under 5 years, you will find a common job role, that is a network security analyst, or a security analyst, or basically anything with the analyst in term. So now analyst is a very interesting term in cybersecurity, right? Analyst means that basically you will have some visibility of the network, or some elements you will have the visibility over, but you may or may not have permissions to make changes as required. Why is that? Because you don't want people without a lot of experience doing some change in your network, or basically on your services, that may affect a larger set of customers, or basically they just don't want you to break certain things if you don't understand them, right? So that's why you need to understand from the perspective of a company, what they are looking for. So they are looking for very basic skills. They need to understand the person they are interviewing. That person needs to know how a network works and where his role will come into play. For example, you take a role of a network analyst, and you are uh, given a responsibility of managing a firewall, for example, right? So you must know how actually a firewall works, right? The brand would not matter, because all of the firewalls will have the basic functionality up to 80% will be same. But yeah, the companies will definitely try to uh, sell their products in a way so that their marketing and their sales team is going to sell the products on certain points, that yeah, X firewall does this, and Y firewall, if you take my firewall, it will give you these added layers of security. But the basic stuff, how this firewall works, why the rules needs to be created, what are network ports that are actually needs to be blocked, you need to understand that. So one of the roles, or basically a scenario that comes in a network analyst who is handling firewall, is that I want to create an access rule for a certain website or a certain IP address. Now you need, as a network analyst, if you are able to answer this question in an interview as well as while doing the job, saying, yeah, I know how to create this rule, and how I am going to and I'm going to do a basic security check. If I create this particular rule, what are the basically the risks involved in creating these rules? So if you have that kind of a mindset, you can do any job in network security as well as the other domains or islands in networks way. All right, so let's move on to the first point. Let's discuss a few points about network protocols, right? So network protocols, there are hundreds of protocols, and the people will, if you do a like a course in in networking, people will going to tell you all the tens of hundreds of protocols and how they work, right? Technically you don't need all of these the protocols in the world, right? What you need to understand, how is the TCP/IP works, right? It has been the language of internet for years, and to be honest, it's going to be around for years now, right? In 70s and 60s, this was created in order to make sure that the communication between two hosts is done properly. And So basically, if you see in the protocol, it's basically the language, so that two devices can actually talk to each other, because as you understand, the data is digital. So they need to understand, the both devices needs to understand the way this data is structured, and how it needs to react to a certain bits or data coming its way, right? So a TCP IP is made of two protocols, and that's why it's referred as TCP/IP suite, or the Internet Protocol suite. One is transmission control protocol, and it has one job, and it does it very well. It makes sure that the data from point A is gets to point B, so that there is no loss in the net data. There is no one is going to tamper with that data in middle, and it's going to be taken from one end to another. So the entire set of, let's say you are sending a file to your friend, right? And you find out that only a portion of the file has gotten to your friend, and the reason for that is somewhere the entire internet, something was broken, and that file never got in its entirety to the intended recipient, right? The file will not open, and you may have to send it again, right? So transmission control actually makes sure that how this data is transmitted from point A and B, right? The second thing is internet protocol. What it does is basically gets the data to the right place, right? So when the internet was born, everyone knew each other, all the scientists who developed each other, and at that time, the landline phones, before mobiles, we used to use landline phones. So every phone number had, like, we used to have phone numbers, so you just dial that phone number, and a logical connection was made from your computer, from your phone to the other phone, and that connection used to help you to talk with the other person, right? So they took the same concept and they took it into the internet world. So they created this something called an internet protocol address or an IP address. So what this IP address was is just a bunch of numbers where if you open your browser or you have an application, you just punch in that number and click on connect, and used to connect to that server who was hosting some kind of a service, maybe a web page, maybe some kind of a file hosting service, right? So to get from the point A to B, we needed to have a path. Now, in the old days when we used to do phones networks, there used to be switchboards and they need to be connected logically. So when they created the internet protocol, they created a logic that this system itself will be autonomous, so that you don't have to make any changes just to connect with a new entity. So everyone will have an IP address. All the computers in the world will have an IP address, and they will talk to each other based on those IP addresses, right? It's generally said that computers do not understand domain names. The actual factor is that we don't want to keep the entire list of domain names on all the computers, right? Because it's not actually needed. So maybe what you can do is, like you have in your phone directory, you if you want to let's say you want to call Anup, you just locate my number on your phone directory and call, right? Similarly, they created these protocols around the same concept, so that only the person you want to talk to, you will have the information about that, right? You can definitely learn more about TCP/IP. TCP protocol itself has a very if you just want to put a book about TCP, it will be thousands of pages, right? So we'll just understand how things work in the real world, right? So now the other protocols, right? You must be imagining, okay, so TCP/IP is something that goes is an underneath protocol, which is a base of the internet. But what we actually do is we see the information in form of web pages, right? In that case, we use the protocol called HTTP. It's basically hypertext transfer protocol. It's basically gives you an entire page so that you can view the content of the website. The next protocol that we use is SMTP, which is used for emails, which is a simple mail transfer protocol. Then we have a protocol called voice over IP, which is VoIP, which enables us to talk over the internet protocol the way I'm talking to you right now. The next protocol is file transfer protocol. It's no longer that much used in the world because it's not that secure, but yeah, it is the best way to get large files from point A to point B. Then there are protocols like RIP, DHCP, DNS. So the four protocols that I mentioned earlier, those are something that as a user you will interact with. The protocols which are the underneath which are mentioned underneath the DNS, LDAP, those protocols are used by the administrators or the network engineers to make sure that the data from one end to another end is transferred. Now you can call these as helper protocols, but they are actually doing a very important piece of the information that we'll look in the next slide. All right. So what happens when you go to the internet, you browse to your favorite website, right? So we want to understand that, and why we want to understand is that the most of the traffic that's going to be you will need to secure is going to be the traffic from the internet. So imagine this: there is a person who works in the office. He may have some work in his
Sorry for being late.
no problem, you're welcome. All right. So let's say there is a person who is he's working in his office. Maybe he has some internet connectivity. Maybe he's working on some cloud server, right? So to get to the cloud server, he needs to go through the internet, right? So we need to understand how a person from sitting inside a corporate office or his home or from his mobile, how does he go into the internet? How does he connect to the computers outside to on the internet? So we'll take an example, and there is a demo at the end where I will be showing you how to see these actual packets with help of Wireshark, how this TCP and IP and all these protocols actually work in the real world, right? Okay, so for example, you just open your computer or mobile device, and you connect to your Wi-Fi or connect to your mobile data, or you have a Ethernet cable and you connect to your router. So what happens in the computer? So computer will use a protocol called DHCP, which is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, to get an IP address. We had discussed, to connect to the internet, you need a valid IP address so that you can talk to the other entity. So it will get a valid IP address using a DHCP protocol. Yes, you can configure the IP address manually, but it's if you have thousands of computers, you can't just go and remember who has which IP. So the protocol known as DHCP is helped in that. And also with when the DHCP configures your IP address, it configures something called a default gateway. That gateway is basically your gateway to the world, which basically tells the computer where to look for resources, or let's say all the computers in the world, right? So it makes that logical path for us to go to the internet, right? So you open the web browser, you go to example.com, right? Example.com is one of those testing sites that will be always up, and it will have the same IP address. It's behind lot of security, but generally what we do is, if to check the internet, is Google. But if you are a networking professional, you may use different sites to check the internet connectivity. And when we do the demo about Wireshark, you'll see why we use example.com. All right, so what computer does in that case? So computer does not know the IP address of example.com. So it's going to use a protocol called DNS, which is basically a domain name service or domain name protocol, which basically gives the IP address of that particular, for example, example.com's web server, where you are actually going to get the web page. Now, the computer assumes certain things. As you have opened a browser, the browser is a software who is used to display the web pages. That means the computer knows that, yeah, this person needs to go to a web page, a web server to get the web page. So it needs an IP address. So DNS protocol is used to get an IP address, and then the computer makes a HTTP GET request to get the HTTP page. Okay, I made a spelling mistake there. Let's move past that, right? And you see the page of example.com, right? Next, let's say you want to do some internet banking, and you go to your bank's web page, right? You type in your favorite bank's domain name, or you search it in Google and then click on that, right? What will computer do? Computer will use the DNS protocol to get the IP address of the bank's web server, right? And then similarly, it's going to do an HTTP GET request to get the web page. But now the web server of the bank says, wait, the HTTP protocol that you're using is not secure. So let's use HTTPS protocol. We'll basically use a protocol suite or a protocol that is called TLS or SSL. There is a debate why it is called TLS, and SSL. We'll come to that in the later part. So this protocol is basically secures the communication between these two entities. You don't want your bank data to be seen by anyone else, and you don't want anything to happen to your account balance. So the bank takes care of that. It will instruct your browser to, instead of making an HTTP request, which is basically not secure, and use a secure protocol, which is HTTPS, right? And then it shows you the website, and then you log in, and maybe you have additional security of an OTP. Then you get into your bank's website, right? So this is how the general internet works, right? And in the demo, I will also show you at the packet level, and how it relates to the TCP/IP protocol, and how actually the web page is seen. All right. So next, now why we need to protect this information, right? Why we need to have network security? That's one of the major questions, right? So first thing is that you want to keep your information and data private, right? You want to have a control over uh, your network and basically all the data that is important to you. Now if you get let's say you will not keep your data in such a place where anyone can access. Yeah, there will be a data that you want to be available for public, but there will be a lot of data which you will want to keep private. So that's why you need to protect your network as well, right? So this in the security terms, keeping your information secure or private is called confidentiality, right? So moving on to the second point. So now let's say you have put in all the controls in for the security. Your bank has your security. You have put your passwords and everything in very safe places. But what if you log into your bank's website and find a couple of zeros missing from your bank account balance, right? Or maybe in your Facebook profile, yeah, someone has changed your profile picture to something that you don't want, right? So that is something is basically you want to keep a certain kind of integrity to your data. And as the term integrity is discussed in the networking or the network security or cyber security world, it is called integrity, right? Now let's say you have created a lot of let's say you have a bank, you're employee of a bank, and you are responsible for those the data or the web servers, right? You have put in all the confidentiality, you have put controls in place to make sure that the data inside this is has a lot of integrity, and there is no one's going to change that data. But what if that data is not available for people to access, right? Then it's basically worthless, right? So in the security word, it's called availability, right? So these are the basically called pillars of network security or cybersecurity, and these all together make up something called a CIA triad, right? So this is basically confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And what you want to do is you want to have a balance. You want to have a balance of confidentiality, so it should not be that much confidential that no one is going to able to access it, right? You want to have controls in place. For example, you want to show the data of your account to your customers, of his account to his customers, but you don't want the others customers data to be shown to the one of the customers of the blank, right? So that's where your confidentiality comes in, and that's also part of your integrity as well as the availability of data for that person, right? So this is the main thing that is going to be the theme of the all the cybersecurity courses and all the cybersecurity world that you're going to work in. You work in any level of cybersecurity, these three things are always going to be there. People will call them with different names. Maybe it will evolve into something and there will be another fourth pillar. But this is, if you think on very logically, this is all you need, right? And this is how your entire network structure, the way you put in your processes, you put in uh, your checks in place, and everything is going to come back to this particular triad, and it's always going to be there where you want to have network security. And these three things are very 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 important. So this is if you see the cybersecurity any courses, they will revolve around one of these things, right? So confidentiality may mean some kind of encryption. Integrity may mean to check the data that is valid. Availability will come into play where you have load balancers and you have redundancies, or you have backups of all your data. So anywhere you're working in cybersecurity, you will end up doing some sort of work with the CIA triad, right? So this is where you need to focus on. And AntWak is has the program that you can enroll into, where you can learn more about this. So the next slide is basically about the AntWak program. So can
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Anup.
Thank you.
I think it's been a wonderful session so far. I'm just going to pick up the screen for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Okay, you guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just take a couple of minutes here to walk you through what we are doing at AntWak, and with especially experts as accomplished as Anup, who have taken their time and effort to build this curriculum for us, worked hand in hand. So it's going to be a 16-week program that we are launching. The batch starts on the 1st of May. Uh, the highlight of the program is, like Anup was mentioning a couple of times during the session, it's not just the theory and the framework and the protocols, but it's the practical knowledge that is important for any of us to succeed in our career. And this entire program has been uh, curated and built based on that premise, right? Let's learn from the working professionals who have spent a good chunk of time in the industry, uh, gotten their hands dirty, and get the insights and practical knowledge from them. So the entire program will be delivered by experts such as Anup. We had Venkatesh, Dr. Ram Kumar in the last masterclass, and so on. A bunch, 7 to 8 experts who will be coming and delivering these classes live. Classes will happen on the weekends because a lot of you guys will be working, studying during the weekdays. So the live classes will be conducted during Saturdays and Sundays. And during the weekdays, there will be real world projects that have been created with these experts. And you will be responsible for delivering on those projects by using the latest tools that are being practically and currently being used in the industry as well. Yeah. Uh, it's a 16-week program. Along with the training on the cybersecurity itself, we'll also be focusing a lot on soft skills, which are becoming equally, if not more important in today's world, where people are working from home. How do you do effective presentations? How do you communicate with your teams, collaborate with external stakeholders, and so on? So there's a bunch of live sessions that we have set up for you guys who join the program to get the expertise on that aspect of your professional life as well. And of course, there is placement assistance at the end of the program. We are onboarding uh, many hiring partners in the cybersecurity domain. We will prepare you for the CV, the interviews, your CVs, uh, and then assign buddies for you during the entire program. And at the end of the program, there will be we will match you with the right hiring partners and set up the interviews for you as well. The entire program cost about 49,999, including GST. There are very flexible EMI plans that we have set up, which starts at around 4,400 per month. So if you guys are interested, please click on this link that you see here. I'll post it on the chat box as well, and register today, and we will get in touch with you and take you through a lot more details as well. Uh, I'll hand it over to Kaushik, who will take a couple of minutes to walk you through what exactly you will find in this program.
Thank you so much, Sriram. Just to thank Anup sir, it's really been engaging because I strongly believe in the fundamental get your basics right. And I think there's quite a lot of good basic information, as in the fundamental concepts, beautiful. As in comparison, what we are planning to do, or what our boot camp kind of entails, or the experiential program rather entails, are different domains within cybersecurity. Because our idea was not to restrict the individual to just one or two or three islands, but rather give them a flavor of the existing islands, so that by the end of the camp, at the end of the course, the individual is not aware of one and two, but almost more than 8 or 9 different specialties. Some of them, if you look at the screen, includes network security, which is actually going to be spearheaded by Anup sir. Then you're going to have talks about cyber attacks. Then you're going to have a talk about web application security, incident management. And if you look at it, every specific island has a tool associated with it. So what we believe in is whatever you're going to conceptually learn, we're going to keep that weightage to a very small content, like 30% or 20%, and the rest of the 70, 80% is something that you're going to get an opportunity to kind of go hands-on right away, because when you do things is when you understand it better. And obviously the concept is important for you to perform what it is. Similarly, we have other islands like digital forensics, we've got identity and access management, we've got cloud security, we've got threat intelligence. So if you see, this is a 360-degree purview of the domains which in today's day or even in the next coming years will be in demand. And we're going to teach you not only about one, but about 8 different topics. And the best part is, like Anup sir, there's going to be an expert associated with every island. And these people have been there, done that in the industry for more than a decade. So there is a wealth of experience coming in. And the amount of knowledge that is going to be shared is just going to be incredible, that you are going to feel that you have exponentially grown as well in terms of the boot camp. All right. Now I can't wait for Anup sir to take over for a final piece of the domain, or which is a final piece of the masterclass, which is the Wireshark demo. So just as Sriram mentioned, check the link out. We have some sort of interesting discounts running out. So just go for that. And Anup sir, I'd request you to just share the screen and show us the demo, please.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. And I will talk more about the how the AntWak program is actually structured and how it actually is different from the other security. So I see some questions which are there for a lot of questions about different certifications on, and I have very good answer for that. So stay tuned for that answer at the end of the demo. All right, so let's get back to our PPT. Not many slides left. I use most of the presentation just to keep as a guide and something to look at. More of a my thoughts and ideas about network security that I'm trying to project. And let's see where we were. Yeah, we were at CIS. And all right, so basically you will see, you will understand. There are a few questions about what network security is, right? So what network security means, what actually a person who is working in network security does. That is the more interesting question that you can understand in. So let's say you get hired for a company, right? On day one, what is something that you are going to do? And let's say you work for that same company for next 20 years, what you are going to do, right? So I'll tell you what actually network security or anything in the cybersecurity actually means in, right? In basically in 2 words, right? It's all about problem solving, right? On the day one, you will get a problem which is you can say a level 1 problem, right? If you have played any video games or play games on your mobile, you get leveled up, right? So on day one, you will have a level 1 problem where you might be just asked to look at certain data and understand and provide some kind of an analysis on that. That comes back to your network analyst kind of a role, right? Maybe you are working, you get an opportunity to work in let's say incidents response. Maybe they will give you a very low severity kind of a incidents where it will be not much of an impact for the company if something goes through, but as they want to give some kind of a work and try to get your feet wet into this industry, you're going to get that kind of a problem solving kind of a situation. Let's say you work your way through and you work 20 years and you become a CTO or a CISO of a company. Still your job will be problem solving, right? And why I'm saying this is because what we want to achieve is the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of all the data that is important to the company. Now, if the company size is small, the data may be not put in a say, or like it's not centralized, it's decentralized, then the challenge of securing that data is different. Maybe you're working for Microsoft and you have a lot of verticals in that place. Microsoft sells different products. They sell hardware, they sell software, they have a cloud platform. Maybe you are placed in one of these domains, right? And these verticals, let's say you're doing cloud security, for example. Still you will still have to find out the way to achieve confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data on the cloud, right? So the problem may be different in in the world in the world of cybersecurity. But what we actually need is the problem solvers, right? And how to solve the problem is, if you understand the system, how it works, then you can definitely work and solving the problem. All right, so this is the main problem that you're going to solve, right? What is the second problem? Second problem is solve problem number one. That's all you're going to do, right? It's not going to be about how painting a pretty picture. You're not going to create any new data. Your job is to protect that data, right? So you want to protect whatever is important to that company, and that's where your network security comes in. You can call it let's say if you get a profile where you are working on the desktop, right? So you are endpoint security. Let's say you are doing you get a profile where you are saying doing a servers which you are managing web servers. You are web server security. Let's say these web servers are not hosted in the company's environment. They are hosted on cloud. You are cloud network security or cloud security, right? End of the day, all these things will come to the same point: how you're going to achieve the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and how to solve the problems around it, right? That's your main job. And to solve these problems, you need to understand these things. So you might be thinking, yeah, okay, this security problem must be solved, right? Companies like Facebook, Google, Microsoft spend billions of dollars uh, to in their networks to make their network secure, so their networks will be secure, right? Okay, go on Google and try to find out the security breaches for these companies, right? Every few months you will find out. Yeah, recently, a couple of days back, I saw a post where it was mentioned that Facebook has lost data of some millions of customers. So basically, that there was a data breach, and maybe your and mine Facebook information is in some wrong hands, and we don't know how it's going to be used, right? You spend billions of dollars on that, still there will be problems will still come into play. Now I'll tell you, there is if you follow security news, there will be a couple of memes that are regularly circulated, right? Both of them talk the same thing. So one of those is there are only two type of companies: those who have been compromised and those who don't know. So there will be companies who are already compromised and they don't know they are compromised yet, unless someone puts some kind of does some kind of an investigation and finds it out, right? To find that out, you need again security analyst, you need network analyst, you need people who can do digital forensics, you need people who can actually protect these data. So the another thing is that similarly, it's called there are two kind of companies, which is those who are been hacked and who will be hacked in the future. Now, why this is? Because what happens is that if you have a target where you can actually get some kind of a monetary reward by doing using your skills and try to trick people, or maybe try to do take a very bunch of data and sell it to a competitor, or maybe sell it to a different country, which that can be used for different purposes, right? You as a and the hacker term is basically very loosely used. I don't like that term. Hacker is someone who actually understands the system and tries to get around the checks or balances which are actually put in place by the designer of the system, right? The real bad guys are the something called a black hat hacker or a cracker, who actually goes with an malicious purpose. If your purpose is just to understand that system, you can actually be a hacker and still be a good guy, right? And why we want to be a good guys, right? Because we want to we want to have basically a meaningful career, a meaningful job, where actually you are actually helping people to secure data, right? Working let's say you are working in a bank, and your part is very small in that, right? And initially you will have very small parts to play, right? You make a very small change. Actually, with that change, there is a security compromise that happens, right? And that may end up end up in a way where a person who is actually does not have that much of a money, and his money gets stolen because of that particular security lapse. Now security lapse can happen anywhere, and it's going to keep on happening, and that's where the security demands is going to keep on mounting, right? You take in few years back, like the cloud was very limited. People were very skeptical about cloud because felt that the main thing is that if it is on cloud, it is not on my computer, not under my security guard. Then it's going to be it's vulnerable. It's someone may take it out. And what the main companies who actually worked on bringing the cloud to you right now, like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, their number one focus is still on security, because people will still have the same kind of a mindset. You ask any non-technical person and you tell him that okay, I'll take all your information about your banking and everything, and I'm going to put it on cloud. He said, where is the cloud? Right? He's going to say that, oh, it's on my computer, it's on my guard. If someone is going to come and steal that data, I'm going to punch him in face. Right? What they are going to do if the data is not under their control? It's on cloud. So that's where your problem solving comes into play, right? Okay, so now as I said that why people think why security professional have these memes out there, everyone gets hacked, because the method of hacking keeps on so much evolving day by day, and it becomes a very big coordinated effort to get a very juicy targets to attack, right? One of the recent things that came into I want to explain you a couple of security breaches and a couple of things that happened which made the news. uh, so one of those was the last year it happened. It was called sunburst, right? And you'll see that the security professional gives very cool names to the security hacks and malware that come out to make it to make their lives a bit fun, right? So let's talk about the sunburst, right? So this happened because of so there is a software called Orion, which is produced by SolarWinds. It's a very big company who actually works with IT administrators and help create products that actually help you manage your IT in a better way. And IT administrators love this product because it gives them a good control of their networking, and they can monitor their assets, basically all the computers which they have, and all the softwares, inventories, and all that is used for. It's basically a monitoring and management platform, and it is used very widely, not by big companies. It is used by small companies as well. So what before what used to happen is that the attack used to happen on targeted by, let's say, today I think that I will try to hack, let's say, a bank in India, right? So I'll try to find out the vulnerabilities in that bank server and try to basically hack into it, right? But that becomes a challenge, right? So then what happened is these bunch of guys who did this particular attack, they did not actually target one company. What they did is actually this software, as any other software, needs an updates, right? Even if you are using a mobile, you'll see that you are updating your mobile constantly. The reason is that the software will have new features, it will have new security fixes. So what these guys actually did is they compromised the update mechanism of this particular software and inserted a backdoor Trojan in it. And with that particular Trojan, they had these 4 stages of attack. So any company who downloaded this update got the Trojan in their network. Then the Trojan uploaded some important information about the computer and the network, and it was sent to its owners, or the command and control server. Then it also downloaded. It had also had a capacity to download other malwares, and then to do more malicious work, right? So the third stage was to deploy a payload called Teardrop, which is basically a Cobalt Strike commodity malware. Cobalt Strike is nothing but basically a penetration kind of a testing platform, which is mostly used for creating malwares and all. And it is you can actually create a malware using this particular platform, and you can distribute it. So, and then what they did is they found the juicy targets which they could have some kind of impact over. And the fourth stage that they did was data exfiltration, which basically stealing data from them, right? So you must be thinking, yeah, so these kind of attacks do happen. So what was like why this made news? The first reason was that supply chain, or basically using another software's update mechanism to get into another some its customers, like the customer for this SolarWind Orion software. They were never this was not done before. It was done in a small case. Had read a report where there is an antivirus company in India. It's called Net Protector. A few years back, their own servers were hacked as and malware was distributed using an antivirus software. Now, Net Protector is not that big of a company, and they do not. I don't want to shame them or blame them not to put security checks in place, because it happened with other companies as well, right? So why did it made all the news? It was because of the targets. The targets were the US departments, like Treasury Department was one of the departments that got this particular malware, and we don't know what kind of data was taken out from that, and where that data actually ended up. Other like big companies like Cisco, SAP, Intel, Deloitte, who is actually works in security domain as well. Nvidia, that produces graphics card, that also got uh, attacked by this particular way. Fujitsu, which is a service provider as well as it makes products. And there are some rumors that even Microsoft offices, which were using like branch offices, not their main data centers and all, but some branch offices were using this particular software, and they also were infected with this. The second one that made news, and you must be heard about ransomwares, was Wannacry. Now, Wannacry was nothing but a simple malware, which basically encrypts your data and holds your data at ransom. And you want to put they want to get paid in bitcoins, so that it's basically a non-traceable kind of a currency transition. And then it's going to release your data. So this was the screen you can see in front of you. This was the screen that all you see. You try to click on Windows button, you try to click, you restart the computer, you'll still see this screen. And if you see, it's very well designed. It gives you all the information: what happened to your computer, how can I recover the files, how can I pay. If you see the links, it actually talks about what is the Bitcoin, how you can buy the Bitcoin, and there is a contact us email address as well. And then there is basically a address where you can send the Bitcoin. Once you send the $300 worth of Bitcoin, you will be able to check the payment and then decrypt your data. Now, the Bitcoin, if you just search for the price of the Bitcoin today, if this happened somewhere around 2003 and 2014, and see the amount of Bitcoin that has gone up. Now, Bitcoin is a legitimate currency which will be adopted in few years, but these guys who made this particular ransomware got very rich, right? And you see there is a there is a timing and GMT and everything is mentioned in that, so it's very detailed one. Now, why it was different? Ransomware has been around since the day of computers. I am not sure if you have seen the movie Jurassic Park, the original one in 1999. The computer expert in that, he basically locks the system out and then he runs away. So that's kind of a ransomware. That's where the ideas of ransomware came in. Why it was different? It actually traditionally the ransomware used to come in like you get a email or a link, you click on that link and your computer gets infected. I'm sure out of the participants we have, someone must have faced the ransomware attack. But this particular ransomware went into a kind of a different mode. It actually worked as a computer worm. It transferred itself from one computer to another, and there was a global impact. Almost 300,000 plus computers were infected worldwide. There are you will, if you find the news articles at that time, multiple ATMs were closed because of these attacks. And if you go to an ATM and you try to do a transaction, ATM is nothing but a computer which is running Windows operating system. In most cases, you see this screen and you are not able to get the machine out. People paid ransoms, people did a complete reimage of the system, or format the system and installed the operating system again. But this was moving into as a worm. So in few companies, what they had to do is physically shut down all the computers, start one computer, install the OS again, shut it down again, and then go to another computer. Imagine the manpower that was required to do all this stuff. If you have installed the operating system before, you have seen it takes around an hour, and you can't run it at same time, or you just have to unplug it from the network, from it to spreading. And again, if you just miss one computer, again your entire network gets infected. So that was Wannacry, and basically it was basically
Anup,
what about cry. Sorry.
Sriram here. This is extremely interesting. I think the folks on the call are really excited to see these details. I think we just a time check. We are already 60 minutes over.
Yeah.
So would it be possible to take a quick demo into the tool, and then also we switch to the Q&A? So
Sure. So
because,
I only have a couple of slides left, to be honest, and I'll just run through those.
sure.
Okay. All right. Okay, so what actually how we protect this data, right? The way we protect this data is using defense in depth, right? So these are the different type of controls that you will learn in the boot camps. Uh, you will go over all of these controls in basically these are the controls that help you do the security of your network, right? So I would be focusing more on the technical controls in network security, right? So the example is like disk encryption, firewall, antivirus, authentication, authorization, and all that, right? So this is how what we actually, you need to know what you are actually protecting. So this is a typical network of any company. You may have a branch office, you may have some portable users, you have the internet where you're putting web computing. Your web computing is your cloud and all. There will be some cloud desktops which will be running Linux, the Apple OS, Linux, or Windows. Then you will have your remote users, right? And with the pandemic and everything, what happened is there was a shift in the way we are doing security. The most of the users were in the internal network, right? But all because of the pandemic, everyone shifted here, right? So these remote computers, which we call as maybe someone is telecommuting or like a mobile. So companies used to have these networks before, but the percentage was very less. There were very less people who was working from home, and with the pandemic shift, everyone had to work from home, and the security engineers or the network engineer had a biggest challenge. So everyone, when everyone was working at trying to figure out what they're going to do with the pandemic, the network engineers were thinking what's going to happen to our network if all of the load of the network is coming from the home users, and how we are going to protect the network, which comes back to what I mentioned earlier. Network security is all about problem solving. So this is a problem that was not created by the network. It was created by the pandemic, and network engineers has to solve it. Right. Okay. So one of the tools that you, as a network engineers, you are going to see is Wireshark. So here are some basic details about the Wireshark tool, how it works, and what it does for you. Right. So and this is where I'm going to just show you a quick demo of Wireshark here, so that as we were mentioning that how your computer connects to the internet, and let's look at Wireshark. Right. Let me remind you later. All right. So this is the Wireshark interface. I hope everyone is able to see the screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
fine.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, all right. So this is a Wireshark interface where you can actually connect. Let me just run it as an administrator. It's not seeing my network adapters. So let's work around this challenge. All right. So I have a previously captured sample file from which I can explain what all things we see actually in the Wireshark. Right. So basically every TCP connection will start with something called a three-way handshake, which is a SYN, ACK, and ACK. The reason to do a three-way handshake is basically to make sure that the communication between two parties and they agree to see some things. Okay, someone has shared the
Yep,
screen.
Anup sir, yeah, I can't see your screen, sir.
Here we go.
Yep.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So as I was mentioning that the three-way handshake is something that every communication will start with. Right. So this is the Wireshark interface. It's basically a free tool. You can download it. You can run captures on your own computer. For some reason, my network adapter is not showing up. I need to troubleshoot that. It's not time to troubleshoot. So I'll take a sample capture where we can check on this data, right? So as we were mentioning, everything is TCP/IP. So this is how a packet looks inside a Wireshark. So every communication will start with something called a SYN packet. Now these are called flags, which basically is set in the TCP packet, so that it will know that this is the first packet in the chain or in the communication. Right. So you'll see TCP protocol. It will have important information like what is the source port, what is the destination port. Then inside the next level protocol will be the IP protocol. Actually, it comes from the Inca installation is done from top to bottom. So we'll see there is an IP protocol where it actually tells us which address is the source and what is the destination of the address where the packet needs to go. So this is called a layer 3 address or a network address. Apart from that, there is a layer 2 address as well, where a MAC address or a hardware address of the NIC card from where the data needs to be exchanged is shown. Right. And at the bit level, where actually it goes to the physical layer and the actual bits are transferred, the basically it's called a frame, and how many bytes it's been transferred from one device to another is basically chopped up into frames, and then we got the segments in the IP address, in the TCP, and that's how the entire datagram works. Now, the power of Wireshark is actually to see inside the packets. So, for example, as I mentioned that when you do a GET request, right, when you are going to a website, so in this particular way, they have gone to okay, this is an admin credential. Let me try another one. Let's take this one. Okay. All right. So in this particular one, what they have done is the three-way handshake happens where the two computers, this one and this is your source and the destination, have agreed to communicate over a port 80, and the next request that is coming from the browser is basically to get this download page. Now in the HTTP protocol, we see that it is going to a site called ethereal.com, right? And it is trying to get this particular page. Now what happens is the server is going to respond saying that, yeah, I acknowledge the request, and then it's going to send out some information, like it's going to send the response back to this particular computer. Now what the way TCP works is it works with streams, so that actually the Wireshark is able to assemble all these streams and make them into basically a readable format. Now, if you see, this is a GET request that comes from the computer and which hits the web server. The web server that yes says, okay, I am able to answer this particular request. I am running an Apache server, which is nothing but a web server. And here is the page. Now, if you copy this entire thing, this is nothing but an HTML page. And if you copy this particular entire thing from here to the HTML tag where it ends, it's quite a big page. And maybe just save it as an HTML file. And I save this as an HTML file, and I'll just show you. So this is a basic interface of Wireshark, and you can see how a web page gets transferred from one end to another. And similarly, other protocols are also using this TCP/IP get transferred from one end to another. And you have a lot of filters in place so that you can actually look at the data that you actually want to see, right? So if, for example, if I want to see how many connections which are in there for HTTP, you can just type in HTTP and you'll see the GET requests that happened for HTTP protocol. So there were two GET requests coming from this particular source to this destination. These are the two destinations, and they got an HTTP response. For example, I just want to see the information about this particular one IP address. All I have to do is do this filter and say IP destination this, and I will be able to see the data going for this address. I change it to IP address and I can see the both way communication. So these there are hundreds of filters, and that help actually help you to see what's going inside the packets, and it's very interesting field to do that. And the reason Wireshark or packet capture is one of the most important tools here is just because it can work on any device. So for example, you have a firewall. The firewall also can capture the packets, and you can see in Wireshark. If you are running a Linux server, you can definitely run Wireshark on that. Basically, do a TCP dump and then take that file into Wireshark and see what's going on with the packets, right? So that's why Wireshark is one of the linchpin tools which you actually need to learn and need to understand if you want to work anywhere in network security, network engineering, or anything that is related to network, right? So that was about the network. So to conclude, so this is a common network setup which looks very complex. We have firewalls, we have switches, we have multiple devices, we have some phones out there. So as a network engineer, if you want to work in network security, you need to have the skills to solve the security problems of all these elements, right? You may specialize in one element be at start, but as your career grows, you may want to specialize in multiple elements and try to solve the security problems there, right? So that actually concludes the presentation part, and we can do question answers now.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. I think it was an
Sure.
extremely engaging session. I can still see a lot of people on the group paying attention to the class. So I'm sure it was a very interesting session for them as well. Let me quickly switch to some of the questions. For example, I have a question from Suraj, who's asking, what is the difference between network security and cyber security?
Okay, so see, these are the terms which would be used very loosely. See, network security, you can say, is more about focused about what's going on the network, as well as your servers, your endpoints, right? Anything that is connected to your network, right, will come under a network security. Now, cyber security is a wide term where you actually not only think about just the elements of the network, you also think about the other factors, like the human factor of the element, right? You will think about how you want to put in the processes, right? As we had mentioned, there are a different type of controls, right? Let's get back to this, right? So these are the different type of controls, right? So network security will more or less fall in the technical control, where you're going to put in technical controls to safeguard your data. Cyber security will not be limited to the technical controls. It will also put in will also be required. Maybe you are having some kind of a data handling policy or a procedure, right? Or you want to put your entire network in a secure place where only a person who is having authorized access is able to access that particular servers, right? So all those elements will as an umbrella term will be your cyber security, right? Anything which is
Got it.
related to computer you want to secure, or anything which is related to cyber you want to secure, you will use the term cyber security. When you are talking about network security, you are going to think about the devices which are connected to the network.
Understood. Rishikesh has a question. What are the basic things we should look while implementing firewall in terms of rules?
Yes, that's a very good question, and I think Rishikesh is someone who has worked with firewall. So let me answer it in a very simple terms, so the other folks also get some idea about it. So see, how the way the firewall rule work is, you want to have a source and a destination, and then you put a rule to block or allow, right? Depending upon the port, either you want to do it on the port or you want to do it in IP, right? One of the common mistakes that people do while doing configuring their rules, they don't put it very granular. Sometimes they actually put a firewall rule in place which actually allows or denies an entire subnet, and then one of the users in that subnet will say that I don't want this block rule, I want an allow rule, right? So then again you are going to add one more rule for that particular user, right? But what you can do is, when you are designing the rules and you're putting in the rules in place, maybe you can have an explicit most of the firewalls will have an explicit deny rule. So if there is no rule in place, it's going to be denied, right? So instead of creating multiple block rules, you create one nice big block rule for a big subnet, and then you only allow a certain computers that you need access to based on the IP address, or based on more granularity of that particular computer, right? So the normal firewalls, the layer 3 firewalls are going to help you do protection on the port, as well as your what do you say, on the network level, right? But there will be definitely new generation firewalls will actually understand the data on the application layer, and then you can create rules based on that. So yeah, so the basic thing that you should actually look for in implementing firewall rules is make sure that the rules are granular, as well as they are scalable, because you have to understand that it's not one request that is going to come in for an exception in firewall rule. Maybe you're going to get one request today, tomorrow you're going to get 10 different requests. So think of on the way that you can actually uh, uh, put the rules in place that are worked in efficiently. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
There's one question from Shivam on what tools a fresher should know to enter into this domain.
Okay, so if you talk about network security, see, tools is something that, as I mentioned, Wireshark and doing packet analysis with either Wireshark with Microsoft also has their own packet analyzer called Netmon, right? So instead of just focusing on tools, right, what you have to focus on is the concept how these tools actually work, right? So if we do definitely in the boot camps we are going to do that. We are going to put Wireshark as well as Netmon. And Netmon and Wireshark are both packet analyzers, right? So once you know Wireshark or once you know Netmon, these tools are interchangeable for them. You need to see how the protocols are structured in these two tools, right? Which are very similar, right? Just Microsoft has to have some kind of a proprietary in everything, so they will name some terms differently. But end of the day, you are doing a packet analysis with TCP dump and with the Wireshark, or even if you're doing with Netmon or even with a text file, you will be able to do the packet analysis if you know the concepts of networking. You know how the handshake works, you know how the TCP protocol works, how the data is exchanged. You will be able to do it with a notepad as well, right? So for those reasons, instead of focusing on each and every tens of thousands of tools, understand how the network works, and then find the tools which are actually suits you, right? I have friends who actually prefer Netmon over Wireshark because they are more comfortable with the UI, right? So and you take a job, you get a job anywhere, it's not necessary the same tools will be used by that company. And one of the questions I think was about certifications and all that, so we will definitely come back to that as well, right? uh, okay.
So I
Next
think,
question.
yeah, so I think a couple of questions, I think we can address that right now, right? What basic
Sure.
certifications, if at all, are required for a fresher to
Mhm.
start a job in cybersecurity?
Exactly. Right. So, as I was mentioning that not all tools will be used by all companies, right? So, similarly, not all technologies or not all products will be used by all companies. There will be, let's say you go ahead and do a CCNA certification, right? Yeah, Cisco was definitely a leader in networking for years and years now, right? But it's definitely no longer the case. There are other challenges to Cisco's dominance. What if you do all the certification about the let's say on Cisco part, and you end up where the supply there is a demand for engineer who is working on Juniper firewalls or Juniper systems, right? Then your Cisco certification is definitely going to help you understand the theory part of it, but Cisco certifications do a lot of they teach more about the how to handle their products, right? So that knowledge may or may not be relevant. What I would suggest is do some kind of a vendor neutral certifications. For example, the certification that I did right at the start of my career and later as well. CompTIA is one of the entities who actually does a lot of vendor neutral certifications, and there are other certification providers definitely out there. So what vendor neutral means is that you don't have to depend upon one vendor. Like let's say, for example, you are interested in cloud security, for example, and you think that AWS is going to dominate the market for years and years, right? But Google also has that kind of a money and that kind of influence that they are the major challenges to AWS's cloud infrastructure, right? So you do an AWS certificate and you go for a job. You post your resume on let's say Naukri.com or even AntWork's job site, and the demand at that time is for Google, right? Then your certificate, I'll not say it is not going to be invalid. You'll definitely gain a lot of knowledge with the AWS certificate, but at that time it's going to be the demand is for Google, right? But instead of that, if you do a vendor neutral certificate for example for cloud security, it the vendor will not matter. you know the security concepts, and you will be able to answer the questions in the interview, as well as you will be able to do the job. And tools, the tools keep on changing, right? Today AWS has a certain way of putting their cloud security. Tomorrow they are going to develop that product, and there are going to be some changes, right? So you will have to keep on learning. But if you have the basics right, you know how things work, you can definitely master any tool that is thrown your way in the company. Right.
Awesome. I think we have one last question from Gauri. Is Wireshark an open source tool? Some of the organizations may not allow open source tools to be downloaded in the network as it brings its own security issues.
Yes, so definitely that's a concern, right? But it becomes upon the trust of the tool, right? So Wireshark is just a packet analyzer, right? So that you can actually read the packets using that. If that's not allowed and you want to do a packet analysis, there are proprietary tools that are available for packet analysis, and they just put the data in a different way. So if generally Microsoft tools are generally trusted, right? Because you are actually using Microsoft Office, you're using Windows. So Microsoft has a tool called Netmon, right? That can be used to do packet analysis. But you will not see that much of a resistance for Wireshark, to be honest, in the security community, because it's fairly trusted with. And it has given a lot of good results, and even if it is open source, they take their own security very seriously. So yeah, there will be limitations in some companies, but in most of the companies you'll not have to worry about these things. There will be always an alternate tool around there to do that particular job.
Okay, so I think the last question here, I think is very similar. Both Gauri and Shivam have the same kind of a question. If we undergo this course, will it help us to work in any environment and with any tools? Is this course worthy for a fresher? Right. So I think they're referring to the boot camp. So I think Anup, what's your thought on this?
Perfect. So I was going to address this in some way or the other, right? If you see the way the academia works, right? Or people, I think most of our crowd is more on certificates. They are fixated on for certificate. There is a reason for that. These certificate companies, right? They actually charge you money. Let me put this in this way, right? If you're doing a CEH or a CCNA, right? What they are doing is basically they have created a course. They have people who have trained on that. They are going to charge you money for doing that certificate. So that is the business end of things, right. And what happens with the way the AntWak is structured, and that's why I came into this program by myself. To be honest, I was looking at certain things, and then I found this, and I found it very interesting to use the professionals who are working in the environment. So you will do one thing. Just find out the people who are doing the certificate, having these certificate institutes, right? You will see they have a lot of abbreviation in front of them. So for Anup, Khopkar, CASSP, AWS Cloud, and all that certification. So that all that person has actually done is just do the certifications so that he can teach you the certifications, right? He's not working somewhere where actually the demand is, right? The person like me or Ram sir or other experts who are actually working in this industry, we do interviews, we hire new people, we actually help, like for in my role I help other customers, right? And what we see is there is a security gap because of this, that people do certification and they expect that everything that they have learned in the certification is going to be in real world. It's not the case. As you are a fresher, you will not get to have an admin access to your Linux box. So for example, you do a Red Hat Linux certification, you learn all the 3695 commands or whatever that is. But when you are given an access to the the Linux server, you get instructions: do not run these commands. So what's the use of having tens of thousands of commands in your repertoire? Yeah, if there is a problem, so problem that helps you, that will be helped solved using these commands, definitely they are good to know, right? But just learning each and everything on a theory part and giving a certification, and to be honest, see the certifications. Every certification is valid for 3 years, right? Technology keeps on changing. That's an average. There are certification which go for 5 years, but
Hmm.
industry standard is 3 years, right? So after 3 years, who are you going to pay the money for? You're going to go back to that company, right? For example, did CCNA or Microsoft. You're going to again pay X number of dollars to get yourself recertified.
Correct, correct.
For average, let's say you work for 10 years, right? At least 4 times you have to renew the same certificate, or you will maybe you will go for another certificate which is again costlier, right?
Yeah.
Why not do this, right? Here's my perspective. I'm putting myself in your shoes. Do a course like AntWak, where people are who actually work in this industry give you insights of that, right? How things work, right? You get a job based on the knowledge that you have gained. The company decides that they are going to put a huge infrastructure on Google Cloud, right? You are chosen because you have the basics, right? You are a superstar in basics. Why won't that company pay for your certification? Because it's their requirement, right? And all the companies have their own certification programs.
Right.
Get the
So you're
money from the
suggesting
company.
basically that, first get your foundations right by doing a program which is certification
Yeah,
agnostic, get your fundamentals right, get the practical know-how, get into a
correct.
company, and then based on where the company is going, get them to sponsor your certification if required.
Definitely. And that way you don't have to pay from your own pocket,
Right.
and keep your certificate updated every 3 years. As long as you are working for that company, they will keep your certificate valid.
Perfect. I think Gauri has a small follow-up question there. I think it's an interesting one. She's saying I am not interested in certificate, but would want to achieve the expertise in network and network security, and that
Mhm.
this course allow her to get that. And
uh, I will say definitely yes, right? And if you are definitely interested in network security, at the end of the boot camp, right, when I'm running through all the practical examples, you will gain so much knowledge on the network security part, that you will be able to answer the questions about the network security. Not only that, you will have an expertise in packet analysis, saying okay, that this is the problem. And as I am coming back to problem solving, because uh, that is I see there is a forget. Yeah, that's fine. You're not non-IT. It does not have to be a very core IT. See, I understand what will be expected is that the tasks and projects that you will be given, you will give 100% to that and try to understand things in a logical manner. If you have that kind of a critical thinking, logical thinking in you, you don't need to be an IT engineer and don't need to be a very techie person to understand things, right? The main thing is logic, right? If you are able to
hmm,
put two and two together and not think of it as something differently, anything other than four, you should be able to do that, right? That's my take on that. And just to add that, Gauri, a lot of my colleagues are BSc graduates. They have done BCom, they have done commerce, they have done a lot many things, but they learned from somewhere that they need to get into IT. They got their first job as a small, maybe a small system admin in a small company, and after that, these guys definitely learned the expertise, and they became IT engineers by themselves, by coming from the commerce background. So don't worry about that.
perfect, Anup. I think that's a really great way to answer that question. I think we'll take just one last question from Bharat. I think it's a more of a trend specific question. What is your opinion on AI in cybersecurity? This will be the last one.
Definitely. See, the interesting part about I'll take 5 minutes, and I think we have a crowd who is engaged with us on that. And this is a very interesting question, right? So why we will need AI, right? Because certain ways the manpower is definitely not going to do everything for you, right? For the example that I gave about the sunburst, basically attack, right? The way it was conducted, it was very covert kind of a thing. The update got to the systems, it was spread across to multiple computers. These guys did went completely silent. They did not have any kind of an indication for months and months that they are stealing data from that. Now, how many monitors, how many people are going to think on that, right? So that's where the AI comes in. Now AI is something is very good in finding anomalies, right? And that's where the network trend is going to find anomalies. So now let's see on the packet analysis. Go back to the packet analysis. You know the normal flow of an HTTP packet analysis that is going on. You find out that the network is making different connections to a very different IPs in somewhere in Croatia. Now, why is that? Your company is based in India. You generally work with, let's say you are just a marketing company, right? You work on like marketing stuff, and you do social media and all that, right? Why your computer in your network is making connections to somewhere in Ukraine or Croatia, right? Now that's an anomaly, right? You can't keep on monitoring everything by human, and how will you know that this connection is going to Croatia or Ukraine? But AI can do that, right? So the network monitoring part can definitely use some AI to understand. Yeah, this looks odd. This looks odd. This does not look right. So it can give you an answer saying that okay, here you go. Here you go. We are seeing some anomalies in your network. Let's investigate. And then you, as a security analyst, are going to work on those anomalies and find that problem and solve it. I hope that answers the question in a practical terms.
Definitely does. Uh, Thank you once again. I think we went almost 45 minutes beyond the time slot, but I can still see a lot of people hanging around. So I'm guessing it was a very fruitful discussion. Thanks a ton, Anup, for taking this time out on a weekend. We will be having more such sessions in the coming weeks. So, folks, stay tuned, do attend them. And thank you all for being on the call today, and hope it was a very insightful session. Uh, Anybody who's interested on the program, please, the links are there. I'll post it again. Do register on it, and our counselor will guide you through all the details. Looking forward to at least some of you joining our program. It starts on May 1st. Thank you, Anup, once again, and take care, guys.